All right, let's continue where we stopped in the previous class. And here's what I did. The very short and simple script that we created in the previous class, I actually posted online on Scholar. So go to Scholar, but before you do that, which browser should we use? Chrome. Which browser we should avoid absolutely at all times? Internet Explorer. So do not use Internet Explorer, because it's not going to end well. Okay? So use the Chrome, go to my course on the Scholar, right? And the site for this class, and right there in the data files, here is the file that you downloaded in the previous class, right? And moved it to the folder data on the disk C, right? Okay, and go ahead and check if it's still there, by the way. So physically open my computer, go to the drive C, and see if the data folder is still there, if it was not removed by the CNUIT. And there is the file titanic.csv inside, right? True?
It's Titanic Excel.
Well, what's the extension saying? Titanic dot what?
Titanic.
Titanic.
No, just Titanic.
Just Titanic. Okay. Well, I'm guessing this is .csv. If you right-click on the file and go to the properties, it will tell you the full name of the file, including the extension, and it should be .csv. Yeah, okay, so we're fine. And right under the file, I have posted titanic.r. This is the script, simple two-line script that we created in the last class, okay? So click on that. It will download, and then go ahead and double-click, and that should open in your RStudio, just like this. True? Uh-huh. How do I get what? So I just simply, go to the data files on Scholar. There I have posted, do you see this one, titanic.r? So click on that, it will download, okay? On your machine, physically it will download on your machine. And then double click, it should open in RStudio. Did everybody get the file opened in RStudio? Yay? No issues? Uh-huh. Okay. Hold on.
I feel that.
Say meow. Say meow. Yeah. Right click. Open. Right click. Open with. First one. And RStudio. Okay. All right. That actually brings a good point. So if that does not open on your machine, here's what you need to do. When the file downloads, okay. Let me do it again. Your Windows machine may not necessarily associate .r files with RStudio. So here's what you need to do, okay? If that doesn't work, just double click and it opens, okay? When you download the file, go to right click, okay? Show in folder. So it will show the file physically in the folder, okay? And after that, what you need to do, when you see the file that you downloaded, right click, and the very first, it will be first one on your menu, okay? Mine is already associated with R. So you should pick open with, and it will give you a list of things, okay? And one of them will be RStudio. So choose that from now on, you would like to open .r files with RStudio. And then next time when you download the R script, you double click, it will pick RStudio to open that, okay? So do it once, and it will basically work for you forever. Okay, so this is what we have, right? Should I make it bigger?
Yes, please.
Okay, 200%. All right, we did only a couple of things, right? We read the file into the variable, into the internal variable in R, and we called it lowercase Titanic, right? And then after that, I told you that typically it's a good idea to look at the file that you have, right? Like what's inside, what's in your data. So let me go ahead and run both of these lines. Remember how to do that probably from the previous class, right? I just select everything, click the run button, and it runs both of my, well, lines, both of my commands, right? It reads the file into the variable called Titanic, and then after that, what does this line do? str Titanic. Shows me the structure, right? My comment right there tells you basically. And here's the structure of the file, right? What, something not working? Errors, okay, hold on. Does it say no file?
Yeah, it says no.
That means that your file is there. See that? Then download the file and move it there, okay? All right. Another hiccup, okay? If you have red stuff, that means that more than likely, I mean, this is simple two-command line, right? If you see errors, then very likely it's not finding the file, where the file is supposed to be. The file is supposed to be on the drive C in the folder data, okay? And if the file is not there, here's what you do. You go back to Scholar, right? Click on the file Titanic, and then move the file into the folder data, okay? So in your script, you're telling, hey, R, go to the drive C, folder data, and there you will find the file Titanic. If the file is not there, it's going to give you an error, okay? So if you're getting a red error, that means that the file was not found. You need to download it and physically move it into the folder, okay? Is it working now, Brandon? Okay. Uh-huh.
I just did the control enter on the second one, that fixed my error. Because it hadn't actually searched the file.
Yeah, well, it's basically sequential. If I don't read the file first,
Yeah.
I cannot see the structure of the data, right?
So that's why I got the error.
Oh, okay, so you need to run the first line and then the second line, right? Yeah, that's exactly right. Without the first line, the second line is not going to work, right? Because there is no such thing as Titanic. If your variable Titanic is empty, what's the structure? There is no structure. There is nothing inside, right? Are we all on the same page? Brandon, how are we doing?
Trying to get there.
Trying to get there. Okay. But you know what to do, right? You need to download. I mean, everything should work. It's just the file is missing. That's the only thing. So you need to download the file and move it into the folder data. Okay? All right. So while Brandon is fighting with hardware and software, let's discuss the structure, right? This is just a brief summary, okay? It says right here that, got it? Okay, good. That my data consists of 2201 observations. That means records in my file, right? Lines, like individual passengers on Titanic. And what do we know about this passenger? It's variables, okay? So it says that in your file, I found 4 columns. And these columns are, first one is class, right? Every passenger traveled either first class, second, third, or was part of the crew. Then there is age, and age is not a number, which it typically would be, right? But rather, it's an adult or a child. So apparently they selected some number, cut off between, child and adult. And if you're, let's say, 18, right? If you're younger than 18, then you're a child. Otherwise, you're adult. Then the next column was sex, and male, female, self-explanatory. And the last one is survival. About each passenger, we know if they made it out of the Titanic crash or they didn't, right? And that resulted in movie by James Cameron some 90 years later, okay? Yeah. All right, so let's start kind of messing with data a little bit. Okay? For example, I want to know what was the breakdown of all passengers by the class that they traveled. So specifically, out of these 2,201 passengers, who was traveling first class, second, third, or part of the crew. Here's how I can do it. Okay? Every time when I do something, well, most of the time, I'm going to need to save it somewhere. So record it in a variable. Okay? So variables can hold anything pretty much. So far, what we saw is the variable can hold numbers, numerical values, or strings, right? Or logical, true, false values. Well, here, in this example, you can see that I created a variable Titanic, and I wrote the entire file into this variable, right? All of it, pretty much, okay? So now I'm going to create a tabular summary for my data, okay? But here is one thing that I need to tell you first, okay? Inside the data Titanic, I have 4 variables, 4 columns, correct? If I want to look at one of them, here is how I need to do it, okay? All I have to do is type the name of my data. In this case, it's going to be Titanic, right? And then after that, if I type the $, look what happens. It tells me, you have a selection, you have a bunch of choices, right? Inside Titanic, you have 4 variables, 4 columns. Class, age, sex, and survive. So from now on, every time when we're going to need to look at some specific variables inside the data, we're going to have to say, what's the data name, Titanic in my case, right? Then $, and what's the column name. And notice that it's actually case sensitive. So if you look across all of these 4 columns, first letter is capitalized. Other are lowercase, right? We should keep it this way. Because you remember, a couple of classes ago we discussed that R is case sensitive, right? So uppercase and lowercase does make a difference, okay? But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a tabular summary for which class the passengers traveled. And I'm going to record it somewhere inside the variable. So I need to pick up a name, right? So how about that? Titanic _ class, okay? This is another thing that I want to kind of tell you about, okay? In the world of computers, there are no white spaces. So what if I would go ahead and say Titanic space class? You think computers are going to like that? No, because computers will treat that as name of the variable and then weird something, which is class. So space actually means that I finished first name and I started the second name. So this computer will not treat that as one continuous name, Titanic class. So if you have a desire to become more descriptive, right, and create your variable name out of 2 or more words, do not put spaces between them, okay? Either put underscores, that's pretty much common practice, or otherwise, if you don't want to use underscore, what I also do sometimes is I capitalize the letter. So Titanic, capital C class, right? But I try to stay away from that, so I use typically underscores, okay? But whatever you do, your names should be continuous collection of characters, okay? Titanic _ class, no spaces, okay? All right, so inside the variable Titanic class, I'm going to record the result. And let me show you another function which is called table, okay? Table is the function that takes one variable pretty much, and it creates the summary of this variable for me, okay? So because it's a function, I have to give it some parameters, right? Sometimes I don't. The function doesn't take anything, but this one does. So that means that I have to open, close parentheses, just like in Excel, right? You pass some variables to the function, you use it, you do it inside parentheses, right? And I want to summarize the variable class. Now, 2 minutes and 15 seconds ago, I told you how we're going to address individual variables, right? So tell me, what do I type? $, but first, before the $, data name. Data is called Titanic, right? Titanic, and then I put $, and I pick the one that says class. And basically how to do it is you hit the tab, and it will pick up the option that you currently have selected, okay? So I'm going to summarize my variable class inside the data Titanic in form of the table, and the results are going to be recorded in this weird thing structure variable Titanic _ class. Simple as that, okay? So I'm going to run this line. Remember how to run individual line, right? You can either highlight it and hit the run button, or you can highlight it and hit Control Enter, same thing, right? Okay. Nothing happens, right? It says, yep, you asked me to run this line, I did it, okay? So I don't see any red, no warnings, no error messages, so everything should be fine, right? Okay, let's take a look. So I'm going to put actually a comment here. So let's see. What should I say? Tabular summary of variable class. I'm going to say quote unquote class in Titanic data set. Yeah. Okay, and now I want to see the tabular summary itself. So all I have to do is type Titanic. And look at that. As I start typing, it already knows that there is such thing as Titanic underscore class. So all I have to do is select that and just run it. And it will show me that out of 2,201 passenger, crew was 885 people, right? First class 325, second class 285, and the third class was the biggest one, 706.
Which one do we highlight?
Whichever you run. So if I want to run the command, I just highlight it and hit Control Enter. It runs one line. And you want to know a secret? You don't even have to highlight. All you have to do is click on the line, hit Control Enter, and it does the line that you're pointing at. Okay, may not even highlight. So as long as the cursor is standing in the line, it will execute that. Okay, are we cool? All right. So this is counts, right? Essentially, these are the counts. Okay, well, how about I'm going to do something else, and I'm going to calculate percentages, right? I know that from looking at that, I know that crew was the biggest one, right? Biggest population on Titanic, and then third class, and then first, and then second, right? What about percentages? Well, here, for that, I'm going to create, let me put a comment, okay? Create proportion table, okay? All right, so I'm going to say class underscore proportions. See, everything that I do, I record somewhere, right, in some sort of variable, so that next time I can reuse it, okay? Class proportions, and I'm going to say, all right, calculate me table, and as I, okay, no, hold on. Prop.table. Okay, so there is simple table and there is prop table. What do you think prop stands for? Proportions, right? And all I have to do is send to the function the tabular summary. And I saved it before. That's the reason why I actually saved it, right? My tabular summary is recorded inside this variable Titanic class, right? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to send Titanic class. So essentially, summary of numbers, right? How many people traveled in each class. Okay? So now if I run this line, it will calculate for me proportions, and let's show the proportions. How do I do that? Just say class proportions, right? Show me what's inside class proportions, please. Okay? So I run this one single line, and there it is. Okay? So table created tabular summary for my column class, right? Prop table created proportions. Okay, so I know that crew was what, 40.2% of passengers on Titanic, first class 14.76, second class 12.94, and third class about third of all people, right? 32%. Make sense? Any questions? We're live? Okay. Let's do a little bit of charts, okay? Let's do a little bit of graphing. So, since R was initially a statistical package, it can do very simple things such as bar plot, histogram, scatter plot, etc., okay? So, let's start slowly, right? So, I'm going to create bar plot distribution of these numbers, okay? First class, second, third, and the crew. So I'm going to put a comment, bar plot plot of variable class. Okay, class, just like that. Very easy. Okay, all I have to say is bar, and look at that. I start typing and it says, yeah, I know that there are several things that start with bar. One of them is bar plot. Let's go ahead and use that. All I have to do really is, if like at the very minimum, if all I want is bare bones bar plot, all I have to do is send my tabular summary, you know, these numbers, right? How many were in first class, second, etc. So, and that is saved where? My tabular summary. Titanic class, right? So all I have to do is send this function, Titanic underscore class, and if you run this one, you will see bar plot right here. Remember, use that window to see help, right? Okay, I'm going to make it a little smaller so that it can fit. Everybody got the bar plot? Simple line, right? I'm saying, show me the bar plot of my Titanic class distribution, right? Okay? Success? No questions, no problems? All right, so, and here I can see visually that biggest population on Titanic was crew, and then third class, and then first, and then second, right? I can do a little bit of messing around with my bar plot. Here's what I can do. First of all, let me tell color, okay? By default, if I don't specify anything, it shows me gray bars, okay? But I can use pretty much any color, and R has a lot of built-in colors. How do I specify the color? That's just another variable, that's just another parameter that I'm sending to the function bar plot, okay? So I can go ahead and say comma, and then say COL, and look at that, as I start typing, the very first thing says COL equals, so this is basically a parameter for the function, okay? So I select COL, and I told you that there are built-in colors, right? So for example, blue. Let me go ahead and color them blue, just to show you how it works. So go ahead and run this line again, and you will see blue bars. Okay, so I can modify the color by just saying what color I want. Now, not all the colors have names. So sometimes when you have like some exotic thing, exotic color, you have to actually specify RGB format for that color. Okay, but the basic ones are built in. So if I want them to be colored yellow, I'm pretty sure it can do that. So yellow, yeah, yellow is built in, right? Okay, let me leave them in this yellow color, okay? All right, another thing that's missing, you can see the title on the top of the bar, right? On the top of the chart. So title is just another parameter that I'm sending to the function, okay? And that is the parameter called main. As I start typing main, I can see main equals. That's another parameter. So I hit enter, and true or false, title is a string. It's not a number. It's not a boolean. It's a string, right? And how do we, what's the word I'm looking for? How do we specify strings? In quotations, right? So I should put quotations. And I will say class bar chart. Okay? Whatever you want. You can put Arnold Schwarzenegger inside. It wouldn't know the difference. This one is for you, okay? How to title the bar chart is entirely up to you. Capital C, lowercase c, whatever you want. Okay? Also, my horizontal label, I can put down horizontal label and vertical label on both of my X and Y, right? So let's start with horizontal label. It's labeled for the X dimension, right? And that is done by saying, again, it's an X parameter, right? So you put comma, I'm going to say X lab. And as I start typing, it says, yeah, there is such thing. I understand what you mean. X lab, and again, true or false, this is a string. So therefore, quotations, right? I'm going to say class, right? That would be my horizontal label. And the vertical label, if you would have to guess, what do you think? How do we do the vertical label? Not X lab, but Y lab, right? So Y, you understand that lab stands for label, right? X label and Y label. Y lab equals quote unquote, and I'm going to say that vertical I have counts, right? Because that's what it is, right? counts of how many people traveled first class, second, etc., etc. Okay. How are we doing so far? We're live? This is fun, right? Cool stuff. You write something and it changes right in front of your amazed eyes. Okay. So I'm going to run this entire line, new updated line, and there it is. Okay. Here is my main title. Here is my Y lab counts. Here is my X lab class. It's all in there. Okay. There are more parameters. You can specify the width of your columns. I don't remember what else. By the way, see how much you remember. What if I don't remember what else is there? What else can I do? How can I find out? What else can I do with my bar chart? Help. Exactly right. I can go ahead and say, help me with the function bar chart. No, it's not bar chart, it's bar plot, right? Bar plot. Bam. And when I run my help function, there it is, okay? It says arguments, okay? I can specify height, width, space, apparently spaces between the bars, right? And a whole bunch of other things. You can see COL that we used, color, X lab, Y lab, X limit, so how far the horizontal axis can go, vertical axis can go, right? I can fine tune my bar chart very uniquely, very finely, right? So I just showed you the basic stuff, okay? So I'm going to erase help here. All right, so this is one summary of one variable, agree? Variable class, right? Okay. Next thing, well, first of all, any questions? That should be fairly simple. Next thing that we'll do is we will do two variable summary, okay? X and Y sort of thing. All right, and for that, we're going to use, you remember we discussed that, contingency table. And I told you that this is a mouthful, right? Contingency table. So we decided how to call contingency tables. Cross tabs, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be amazed. This is the first demonstration of why R is so powerful, okay? Natively, R does not have a nice looking two-way summary. Two-way, I mean two variables, right? Variable X versus variable Y. In form of the cross tab. So for that, I need to bring external library, and the library is called gmodels. Okay, so let's install. So first thing that I have to do is basically install this library on my machine. Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and put comments. Right. So every step that I'm doing, I'm documenting, because later I will upload this file up there. We'll be able to download it and see exactly what we did in class. You see how cool it is to leave comments behind? All right, so I'm going to say install package called gmodels, continuous name, gmodels, okay? And how do I install? I'm going to say install packages, install.packages, and it's a function, right? How do I know? There are parentheses after that. That means it's expecting something from me. So I'm going to tell this function that I want to install the package called gmodel, quote unquote, gmodels, yes at the end, gmodels, okay? Continuous name, no spaces. Do not ever use spaces, right? In the names of whatever, packages, variables, there should be no spaces. Computers don't like them, okay? So when I run this line, it installs apparently, right? But with some warning, right? Warning, RTools is required to build our packages that's not currently installed. Please, blah, blah, blah. Do you have the same thing? No? Your install is clean, right? No red stuff. What does the red stuff say? Okay, but it's
It's saying it's
not
not available.
available. Yeah, it says something about our version, right? Typically. It says this package was built under a different R version, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. I mean, that means that it probably is outdated slightly, right? But we should be able still to use it, okay? So now I install this package on my machine. There is another way how I can install package. just the same, okay? Let me show it to you. Go back to the window where we had help earlier, and now there is a bar chart, right? Do you see one of the tabs that says packages? Click on the packages, okay? And it will provide you with a list of things that are already installed on your machine. If I want to install something outside, then all I have to do is click this button right here that says install. And I have to type the name of the package, which is gmodels in my case, right? Gmodels. And then I click install button, and it will go through the same pretty much procedure. Package gmodel successfully unpacked and MDS sum checked. Well, that's a sign from you that pretty much everything went correctly, right? So either way you do it, either through this to the button install, or just typing install package gmodels, that should be fine. Okay. Now this package is on my machine. By the way, where did the package come from, if you would have to guess?
Data.
No.
The internet.
It came from internet. That's exactly right. Okay. That's why R is so powerful. If I know that I need to use certain exotic package, all I have to do is this. I type install package, and it downloads the package, installs it on my machine, and I can use it. That's why R is so popular, okay? It's easily extendable, okay? If I know the package name, I can bring it in and start using it immediately. That's why it's so cool, okay? Now, the package is installed on the machine, but I need to load it into the memory first, okay? So here's what I do. I'm gonna type comment again. Load library, okay? Load package gmodels. Okay, so all I have to do is to say library, and it's a function also, okay? It expects a name from me, and I'm gonna say library gmodels, okay? Gmodels, and when I run it, pretty much runs. It only gives me the warning message. Do you see also the red warning message?
Yes.
Some do, some don't. Okay. If you see the warning message, that's okay. I told you that red is always bad. Not necessarily, okay? Red can be a warning sign that says, hey, it's outdated package. Use at your own, swim it at your own risk. Yeah. Right there, okay? So installing brings it on your machine. But loading into the active memory, you have to say library gmodels, okay? And after that, I can use one of the functions which is built into the library gmodels. And that function is called, so now let's go ahead and create cross table, two variable summary, okay? So I'm going to put a comment here, and I'm going to say create a cross tab, okay, of variables. Let's do the same thing. No, let's do different things, okay? How about survival of passengers versus gender, male, female, okay? So gender, I believe, is labeled sex, right, in the file, and the survival is survived, if I remember correctly. Okay? This is just a comment, so it doesn't matter how you type it. It will be ignored, right? Anything £, and after that is ignored. It's just for you to be able to read it and understand what that line does, okay? That's all. So now I'm going to say, start typing cross, and there is cross table. This is the function. Guess, you know what? I should have done it before, actually. Now that the library is loaded, it can see the cross table function. I should have started without installing library, and you would see that there is no such thing. So it will not show you this very first function, cross table. It's only after you load the library, and you say library gmodels, it will start seeing the function cross tab, okay, cross table. So go ahead and select cross table. And because it's a two variable summary, I have to specify variable x and variable y, okay? So I decided to slice and dice the data, how passengers survived by gender, male, female, right? Okay, question to you guys. How do I reference a variable from my data? We did that already today. What do I type first? Data name, then $, and then variable name, right? So the data name is Titanic, right? Titanic. Then I put $, let's pick the sex, right? and then comma, the second variable, cross tab is a two variable summary, right? Same thing. I have to say my data name, Titanic, $, and the variable survive. And that's it. After that, I can run my line of code. Okay. And here is the two-way bivariate summary for me. Everybody got that? Success everywhere? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Let's spend next 10 minutes talking about what do we see. Okay? All right. First things first. What do you think this number in the lower right corner tells me? Total, right? Total number of observations. 2,201 passengers on the Titanic, right? These two columns, row total and column total, are sometimes called margins, okay? They create summaries for me according to the gender and according to the survival variable, okay? So specifically, out of 2,201 observations, 470 were females, right? And that represents 21.4% of all passengers. 1731 were males, and that corresponds to 78.6%. Very difficult question, you guys. If I add this percentage and this percentage, what should I get? 100, right? Everybody's either male or female, right? So this percentage and that percentage should be adding together to 1.0, right? So this is this margin. Okay, let's take a look at the margin at the bottom, column total. Out of 2,201 passengers in Titanic, 1,490 did not survive, right? Survived? No. They drowned, right? They didn't, you know that they didn't drown, most of them, right? What happened? Hypothermia, that's right. Okay? Those who died, 67.7% of all passengers on Titanic. 2/3 of passengers died, right? Survivors, 711, and that represents the rest of that, 32.3%. So again, if you add these percentages together, what will you get? 1.0, right? 100%. Everybody either died or survived. There is no third option, okay? Then let's turn our attention to each individual cell right here. Because they're all organized the same, let's take a look at only one of them, okay? So this one that says female, no. So all these numbers, they're pretty much summaries about females who did not survive, right, on the Titanic. Okay, and do you see this portion on the top of your cross tab? That's essentially a helping tool, okay? This is kind of a narrative, how to read these things, okay? So there are 5 numbers, you can see in each cell there are 5 numbers, and they have 5 things that will tell you precisely how to read each one of them. N is just a count, right? So, what do we see here? On the Titanic, 126 passengers were what? Female who did not survive, right? That's just simply a count. Okay, next one we're going to skip. It's the chi-square. I don't know if you remember when you took the BUSN 231 class, there was a chi-square test for independence of 2 categorical variables. That has to do with independence, okay? So we're not going to discuss that, so therefore let's skip the next one. Number 3, it says N out of row total. Okay, here are my row totals, right? So N out of row total, in this case, it literally means 126 divided by what? What's the row total? 470, right? And the meaning of that is this. 126 females did not survive out of, what's 470? Total females, right? So out of total number of females on Titanic, 126 did not survive, and the ratio is right here, 0.268. That means that 26.8% of the females on Titanic did not survive. Out of all females, right? Just females, okay? So if I look at the same number in the Next column, right? What's the meaning of that? 344 females did survive, and that represents 73.2%, right? What will happen if I add these two numbers together? 100%, right? So females either survived or they didn't, right? So this is the percentage of people who died, females, right? This is percentage of them who didn't die. So these two numbers should add up to 100, naturally, okay? So this is number 3, right, on my list. Number 4 on my list. The meaning of that is explained by this entry right here, and it says n, same thing, count, but now divided by the column total, okay? So this is the column total, correct? And what does this number tell us? 1490. 1490 what? Didn't survive. All 4 passengers, right? So this is total number of people who died. And out of them, 126 were females, right? So therefore this number 4, this fraction number 4 tells us out of all people who did not survive, what was the percentage of females, right? So what do we see? Out of people who did not survive, 8.5 were females, right? And same thing over here, right? Males who did not survive, the count was 1364. And if I look at the ratio number 4 right here, same meaning, right? What was the percentage of males who did not survive? So that was 91.5. What happens if I add percentage of females who didn't survive with the percentage of males who did not survive? 100%, right? Everybody who did not survive were either male or female. Makes sense, right? So therefore these two numbers, now in the column, right? The number 3, both these numbers in a row add up to 1, but number 4 and number 4 in the column, they also add up to 1. Okay, make sense? Alright, let's take a look at the last one. It's n out of table total. This is my table total, right? The total number of people on the Titanic. Females, males, survive, not survive, everybody. Okay? So what does that tell me? This last ratio. It tells me that the count, which is again 1.26 for that cell, right? Divided by the total is 0.5057, right? So that, what does that tell me? That tells me that out of all passengers on the Titanic, 2201, females who did not survive represent what? 5.7%. Now, question to you. Which numbers do I add for the last number 5, right, in each cell? Which numbers do I add to get 100%, 1.0? All 4, exactly, all 4, right? So, females who did not survive, plus percentage females who survived, plus males who didn't survive, plus males who did survive, that should be everybody, right? And these 4 numbers, they add up to 100%, okay? So that's basically a summary of the two-way tabular summary of 2 categorical variables, agree? Gender is a categorical variable because it's not a number, right? It's male or female. And survived, yes, no, is a categorical variable, right? So this is a cross-tab or tabular summary of 2 variables which are categorical, okay? Any questions? Okay, we are done for today, and next class we have quiz, right?